Welcome to 21st Sports 2015 Season Preview for the Houston Texans. We're going to go over the roster and the regular season schedule and make predictions for every single game in the regular season and into the playoffs, as I have the Texans actually making it into the playoffs if you actually checked out our season preview show. But let's get started with the roster. And at quarterback, they have a new guy under center. That's Brian Hoyer. And I think this is a really big addition for the Texans. I think this is going to be the difference maker in them making the playoffs, at least from the offensive side of the ball, is they already have a great defense, and they could have made the playoffs, with the good quarterback play over the last couple seasons, but we saw, Ryan Fitzpatrick would always turn over the ball right when they were going to win the game, but that's not going to happen with Hoyer. Hoyer's going to take care of the ball. I think Hoyer is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire league. I think he's a hard worker, and given the chance, I think he will succeed in Houston. So I think it's a big pickup for them. I said Hoyer's a hard worker, and also he first was with the Patriots, and that's where Bill O'Brien is from. So they are familiar with each other, the type of system they're running, so Hoyer's going to come in and have success right away. And they're not going to ask him to do too much, although at first, he's going to be without Arian Foster, as Arian Foster, has that groin injury, but he will be back sooner than expected. But in the meantime, Alfred Blue will be getting the carries there at running back. They got Jonathan Grimes as well. And Alfred Blue, I think he could be productive. Last year, when Foster was injured, Blue got some carries. He had 528 rushing yards, and he had a couple of touchdowns. Of course, Arian Foster, he had 1,246 yards and 8 touchdowns off of just 260 carries. So Foster obviously is a stud. I think Blue can, be a adequate substitute until Foster returns. And then once Foster returns, they'll be running on all cylinders. Of course, Andre Johnson is gone, but last year he didn't, reach 1,000 yards. Actually, DeAndre Hopkins was the leading receiver for the Texans with 1,210 receiving yards. He also had 6 touchdowns, and so he's going to have another good year, I believe. They also have Nate Washington at receiver. Also, Cecil Shorts III is another new addition, and Jalen Strong is another receiver. So they've got some talent at receiver, even with the departure of Andre Johnson, who's been the best receiver probably in Texans history, in the short history of the franchise. But I think, like I said, they have plenty of talent. I think Hoyer's going to do a good job getting the ball. Once Foster returns, they're going to be in pretty good shape. And even, with Blue, he's an adequate substitute in the meantime. And so I think, they'll be running pretty good even, before Foster returns. And once he returns, this will be a very balanced attack, and they should have a lot of success. And as long as they take care of the ball, that's the number one thing. If they just take care of the ball, don't turn it over, even if they have to punt it, as long as they don't turn it over and put their defense in a tough spot. So that's the thing, if they go 3 and out, yeah, that's not the best thing, but at least when you punt the ball, you back the other team back up into their territory, back against their own end zone, as opposed to turnovers, which leads teams to set up in your territory, possibly in field goal position to start the drive, and then now your defense is put in a position where they're almost guaranteed to give up 3 and maybe even 7. But if they can take care of the ball this year, which I believe they will, they'll make the playoffs, and they'll have a real legitimate shot at taking the division title, although I have them just narrowly, missing the division title. But let's look at the defense. It's a very real possibility that they could actually go very far this year. I would not be surprised to see them even in the Super Bowl. But let's look at the defense. As I said, first off, of course, the best defensive player in the entire league, that's J.J. Watt. Everybody knows that. J.J. Watt, what can he do? He can do everything, J.J. Watt. I mean, he can even catch touchdowns. He can even throw passes. But, the guy's just incredible. He is a monster. He is a beast. And now with the addition of Big Daddy Vince Wilfork, man, this defense is going to be one of the best defenses in the entire league this year. Like I said, I won't be surprised if they finally take the division, even though the Colts are going to be a tough team. and that's who they got to get past first. And then if they can take the division, I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a run in the playoffs. They could possibly even, go all the way. I wouldn't be shocked, although that's not what I have picked. But getting ahead of myself here a little bit. On the other end, they have Jared Crick. So it's a very strong front line. And then they have a really good linebacking core as well, with Whitney Merciless, Brian Cushing, Akeem Dent, and Jadeveon Clowney. Of course, on the outside is Merciless and Clowney. If Clowney can stay healthy, this will be a really good linebacking core. Of course, in the middle, Brian Cushing is a very strong player as well. He's very talented. And Akeem Dent, he's not quite as talented as the other three, but with those three guys around him, they have a very solid linebacking core and a very solid front seven. Then in their secondary at the corners, you had Kareem Jackson and Jonathan Joseph. They're both very capable players, very talented players. In my opinion, especially I like Jonathan Joseph. Kareem Jackson, he can step up this year, take his game to the next level. And it's not like he's going to be asked to do so much. Either of these guys on the corners, when you have such a great front seven and such a good pass rush, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and they're not going to have a lot of time to make their reads and make their decisions. So it's not like they're going to have to put up spectacular seasons from the corners and from the secondary. They actually added a couple of really good safeties, as now they have Quentin Demps at strong safety and Raheem Moore at free safety. So they did improve their secondary, and their secondary was the weak spot, and they improved it, and they even got better up front with Vince Wilfork now, who's one of the best defensive tackles to ever play the game. In my opinion, Vince Wilfork is a Hall of Famer without a doubt. That's real talk. And so this defense right here is one of the toughest defenses, one of the best defenses. They got the best defensive player, and they even got better, like I said, with Vince Wilfork, Quentin Demps, and Raheem Moore coming in, and then Jadeveon Clowney, if he can be healthy. This is already a good defense. Now it's a great defense. So I think they're going to have a phenomenal season. Then we look at their special teams. We have Randy Bullock as the kicker. He's a very capable kicker. And then Shane Letcher, he's a really good punter, in my opinion. And then at kick returns duties, we have Quentin Demps and Keith Mumphrey. And Mumphrey's going to be returning the punts. So that's your special teams. So that's the roster for the Texans. They said it's a solid roster. If anything, really, there's the injury to Foster, so that's a little bit of a question mark. But when he returns and he's healthy, if he's 100%, he's one of the best running backs in the league. And then Hoyer, in my opinion, I think he's really underrated. I know a lot of people have questions about if he can be successful in the NFL, but I believe he can. And I believe this is the perfect team for Brian Hoyer, because Brian Hoyer doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have to be Drew Brees or Tom Brady. He could just be Brian Hoyer and do what he does. Take care of the football. Don't make mistakes. Don't force anything. And just protect the ball. Don't make the turnovers, and everything will be fine, because their defense is spectacular. But let's look at the schedule and go over our predictions for every single game. And it starts off in week 1, as they're going to be hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. It's September 13th. It's a 1 o'clock game Eastern time. That's the kickoff. And like I said, it's in Houston against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think they'll beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a tough team. Like I said, the Texans at home with that defense, they'll be able to shut them down, even though I think the Chiefs are going to have a better offense this year. Of course, they have Jamal Charles, who's one of the best running backs in the game. But like I said, that defense of Houston is going to hold them down, and as long as they protect the ball, they'll be just fine. So then week 2, September 20th, another 1 p.m. kickoff, and this one's in Carolina against the Panthers. And I believe they will go in there and beat the Panthers. I don't think they're going to have too much trouble with Carolina. I think Carolina's going to have a rough year. I think actually Carolina was not that good at all last year. They were way overrated. They didn't deserve to win the division. It was just that somebody had to win the South. But anyway, week 3, September 27th, another 1 o'clock kickoff. And this game is at home against the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers are going to be a much better team this year. But in Houston, the Texans will beat them, and it's going to be welcome to the NFL Jameis Winston, as he's going to have J.J. Watt and Vince Wilfork up in his face, and that is a scary thought for anybody. Those are two guys you do not want to see in your backfield coming at you. So I think Houston wins that one. So they start off with a 3-game winning streak. Then week 4, October 4th, another 1 o'clock start. And this one in Atlanta, as they're going back and forth, home road. And then, with this game right here with the Falcons, I think they're going to beat the Falcons. They're going to be in the backfield, giving Matt Ryan all kinds of problems. As talented as he is, as talented as their receivers are, the rush is going to be in their face, and it could get ugly. And like I said, as long as they protect the ball, they should have no problems beating the Falcons in Atlanta. So week 5 is their first primetime game of the season. That's October 8th. It's a Thursday night game, 8:25 kickoff Eastern time. All these times are Eastern. And this one is at home against the Colts. So the Colts, they're a team, that the Houston Texans, first they had to go against Peyton and then Andrew Luck. And then that's bad luck to have to go against those two quarterbacks in your division. But right here in Houston, prime time, the Texans beat the Colts. They'll be able to shut down Luck. It's a tough thing to do, but I think they can get some turnovers against them, and they can hold them as well as you can hold Andrew Luck. I think they actually might hold him to, around 200 yards in this game. But either way, I think that they'll win this one, and they'll continue their winning streak here and stretch it to 5 games. Then in week 6 they have another division game, this one on the road in Jacksonville. This is October 18th. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff against the Jaguars, and I believe they extend their winning streak to open the season to 6-0. So I think they'll beat the Jags. I think the Jags will be much more competitive this year, but they're not going to be good enough to beat these Texans, like I said, especially with this phenomenal defense that they're going to have this year. It's as good as they were last year, as good as they have been, they're going to be even better. Last year, JJ had 20.5 sacks. I think he's going to have even more sacks this year now with Big Daddy next to him. Anyway, so week 7 will be a battle of the undefeated. This is October 25th. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. It's in Miami, their second straight road game in the state of Florida. And this is where they lose their first game of the season. The Dolphins are a really tough team as well. It's going to be one heck of a battle. This is a game to watch right here. It will be the game of the week. The Texans at the Dolphins. They said they're going to lose this one in Miami. They could win. It's possible, but I just, I give Miami the slight edge. It's in Miami. I think these teams are very evenly matched. They're almost a mirror of each other with the talent that they have on both sides of the ball. These are going to be two of the best teams in the AFC for sure. Both of them have very real possibilities to go deep into the playoffs. So then week 8, after their first loss, they're going to be back against a division rival at home. It's November 1st, 1 o'clock kickoff, and it's against the Tennessee Titans, and they get back into the win column. And so that will put them at 7-1 heading into their bye week, week 9. So coming out of the bye, they're going to be on prime time Monday Night Football against the Bengals. It's in Cincinnati. It's November 16th. That's at 8:30 p.m. kickoff time. And the thing is, with the Bengals in Cincinnati, that's a tough game. The Bengals are one of the toughest teams to play in their home. Like I said, in Cincinnati during the regular season, the Bengals are, they were undefeated last year. They're one of the better teams at home, and that kind of makes a difference. If this was in Houston, I'd give the edge to the Texans, but I think the Bengals are going to be right there, as one of the top teams. Like the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Texans are all going to be really tough teams. They have a lot of balance on both sides of the ball. So then, after that loss, their second loss of the year, only their second loss, they're going to be going back home to face the Jets. This is week 11, November 22nd. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff, and I believe they will have no problem beating the Jets at home. And so then week 12, November 29th, another 1 o'clock kickoff, another home game, the second straight week in a row at home, this one against New Orleans. Second straight week going against a team that has new in their name. New York, New Orleans. Anyway, so they host the Jets, and I believe they'll beat the Jets. They'll give Drew Brees plenty of problems. and I think they'll be able to score on the Saints defense, and they win this game. So then week 13, December 6th, 1 o'clock kickoff, they're going to Buffalo to face the Bills, and I believe in this game against Buffalo in week 13 that they will win this one. And so then, they'll win 3 straight after that loss. But then in week 14, December 13th, 1 o'clock kickoff at home against the Patriots. I think the Patriots will give them their only loss at home. This is the only game I think that the Texans will lose at home. They could beat the Pats, actually. The thing is, I'm a little biased there and have the Pats running the table. But if the Pats are to lose the game, this is the game I think that the Pats might lose. This is a game that the Texans very well may likely win. It's the only time I have them losing at home. I wouldn't be shocked if it did go the other way, but officially I have the Patriots winning this one. Then in week 15, they go on the road. It's December 20th, 1 o'clock kickoff in Indianapolis against the Colts. The second time they'll be facing the Colts this season. They're division rivals. The team that, this one right here has kind of come down to who's going to win the division. Of course, their last 3 games are against their division rivals, each one respectively, the Colts, Titans, and Jags. And 2 of these games are on the road. First here starting off with the Colts in week 15. And after having beat them, back in week 5 in Houston, I think when they go to Indianapolis, the Colts are going to win this one. Although maybe the Texans pull it off. It's possible. If they can beat the Colts in week 15, they win the division. But officially, I had the Colts beating them, and I had the Colts taking the division. Although, it's a very real possibility the Texans do it. The real difference here is the quarterback. Andrew Luck, and it's in Indianapolis. As much as I like Hoyer, I just don't know that he can perform to such a high level. Like I said, all he's got to do is take care of the ball, protect the ball. But Indianapolis, I think that, the Colts are going to have the slight advantage. But then week 16, December 27th, they're going to Tennessee, and I believe they'll have no problem beating the Titans and completing the series sweep over the Titans in 2015. And then in week 17, they go back home to face the Jags for the second time, and I believe they'll beat them for the second time, sweeping them as well. So they'll win 5 out of 6 games in their division. And that's a recipe for success, and it's a recipe for winning the division title. So it is very real. It's a very real possibility. I have them going 12-4, and at 12-4, they could take the division. But I have the Colts actually just narrowly edging them out. I think actually with tiebreakers, but so with that, I have them as a wild card team. Even though, like I said, they may likely win the whole division. It is a real possibility. I have them actually tied with the Colts at 12-4, and just the Colts getting the tiebreakers. Like I said, if they can win that game in week 15 against the Colts, then they take the division outright, and it won't come down to tiebreakers. Or if they can win one of those other games that I have them losing, then, it won't come down to tiebreakers that way either. But as it is, as I have it picked, that's the way I have it going down. And with that, I actually have them facing the Colts again in the wild card. I actually picked the Colts to beat them in the wild card week. It's going to be in Indianapolis. But I don't know. I don't know if the Colts are going to be able to beat them twice in the same year. And they very well may likely upset the Colts in Indianapolis the second time around in wild card week. Of course, the Colts, they went to the AFC Championship last year. But I think the thing is with Houston that, they have a strong season and they build upon the success that they have this year. And then I think next year they'll take the division. I think next year they might even win the Super Bowl. But maybe they do it this year. But I think that Hoyer's just going to need a year with the team. But once Hoyer's with the team for a year and then gets his second year back under center, then I think that's when they really, run the gauntlet and go all the way in the playoffs. But, this year, I think they're going to have a strong, solid season. I think they're going to compete. And I think it's possible, it's a very real possibility that the Texans could even make it all the way to the Super Bowl, maybe even win the Super Bowl. It's happened before where a team with a really strong defense and a good running game has had a quarterback who isn't necessarily the flashiest guy, but takes care of the ball. I'm talking about the Baltimore Ravens when they had Trent Dilfer. think Hoyer is definitely as good as Trent Dilfer, in my opinion. And like I said, if he, can just take care of the ball, then they should have no problems, and they could go very far. So I think it's a very promising season for the Texans. Like in an alternate universe, I picked them to win the Super Bowl, but in this universe, I'm picking the Patriots in the multiverses. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section below. What do you think about the roster of the Texans with their improvements? Do you think there are improvements? I do think there are improvements in a few positions. And also let me know what you think about their schedule, and what do you think about our predictions for their season. What are your predictions for their season? How far do you see them going? Do you think they're going to win the division? Do you think they'll make the playoffs as a wild card? Or maybe you think they're going to miss playoffs? I don't think so. I think they're going to be one of the best defenses and one of the funnest teams to watch all season long. But either way, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.